I walked into the federal bankruptcy courtroom in downtown Dallas, cameras flashing non-stop outside the glass doors, reporters shouting questions as security held them back. Everyone in that packed room expected to watch my complete public downfall. My younger brother sat across the aisle, leaning back with that smug smirk he'd perfected over the years, certain this was the day he finally buried me. My name is Kimberly Dunn, and I'm 36 years old. I sat at the defendant's table, hands resting flat on the polished wood, heart pounding but face calm. The air was thick with anticipation, the kind you feel right before a storm breaks. This wasn't some quiet administrative hearing. My family had made sure of that. They'd turned it into a spectacle, inviting local press and a handful of Highland Park socialites who lived for this kind of drama. Across from me, the plaintiff's table looked like a staged photograph. My younger brother Jeremy wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, elbows on the table, that same smirk playing on his lips every time he glanced my way. He thought he had me cornered. He thought today I'd be forced to admit defeat in front of the entire city. Next to him, our parents sat in practiced silence. My father, rigid jaw, set, my mother clutching a handkerchief she didn't need. They'd flown in every favor they had to pack the gallery. Reporters scribbled furiously. Phones were already lighting up with notifications. The headline was practically written: Highland Park heiress bankrupted by own family loan startup collapses. My attorney, Erin Patel, sat beside me, arranging documents with steady hands. She leaned in slightly. "They're putting on a hell of a show," she murmured. I nodded, keeping my voice low. "Let them. We're ready." The bailiff called the room to order. We rose as Judge Keith Morgan entered, a man in his late 60s with sharp eyes and zero patience for games. He took his seat, scanned the docket, then looked out over the courtroom. The silence stretched tight. The lawyer for my family stood first, buttoning his jacket with confidence. He began painting the picture they wanted everyone to see: the reckless older sister who begged her generous younger brother for $1.8 million to save a failing company, then burned through it all and refused to pay it back. He spoke of mismanagement, missed payments, a business on the verge of collapse. Every word designed to make me look incompetent, ungrateful, broke. Jeremy's expression hardened with satisfaction as the accusations landed. He didn't even try to hide it. Erin stayed still, waiting her turn. When the judge finally turned to us and asked if the defense wished to respond, she rose smoothly. Her voice was quiet but carried to the back row. "Your Honor, the plaintiff's story is dramatic. It's emotional. It has a very large number attached to it." She paused. "But it's missing one thing." She let the silence hang just long enough. "Truth." The room shifted. A few reporters stopped typing. Erin continued. "We will show that no such loan ever existed, that the documents are fabricated, and that MedLink Innovations, the company they claim is failing, is not only solvent. It is currently under a major federal contract with the Department of Health and Human Services." A murmur rippled through the gallery. Judge Morgan flipped through the file in front of him, expression unreadable. He stopped on a page, frowned, then looked up directly at me. Then he asked one question. One quiet, precise question that made Erin Patel freeze beside me, made the color drain from my family's side of the room, made Jeremy's confidence crack for the first time all morning. And in that frozen second, I knew the script they'd written for my destruction was about to be torn to pieces, right here, in front of everyone. Thank you so much for watching this story of betrayal and justice. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from today. Are you in your car, on the commute, at the office, taking a break, or relaxing at home? Drop it in the comments below so we can connect. And if you want more stories like this, real karma, family drama, courtroom, revenge hit, that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash the like button. It helps these stories reach more people who need to hear them. Let's keep going. The bailiff's voice faded and the room settled into a heavy hush. I scanned the gallery, first reporters from the Dallas Morning News and a couple of local TV stations hunched forward, pens ready. A few familiar faces from Highland Park sat scattered among them, the kind of people who treated gossip like currency. At the plaintiff's table, my family had arranged themselves for maximum effect. My father, Dennis Dunn, sat ramrod straight, arms crossed, face carved into an expression of quiet disappointment. He wore the same navy suit he saved for board meetings, the one that made him look untouchable. My mother, Pamela Dunn, was beside him in muted gray fingers twisting a tissue she hadn't used once. And then, there was my younger brother, Jeremy. He leaned back just enough to look relaxed, one arm draped over the chair beside him. When our eyes met, the corner of his mouth lifted, slow, deliberate, impossible to misread. He was enjoying this. My attorney, Erin Patel, shifted slightly next to me. She didn't speak, but I felt her presence like armor. We had prepared for every angle they might throw. Still, watching them perform for the room made my stomach tighten. Roger Ellis, the lawyer my family had hired, rose first. He was tall, silver-haired, the kind of attorney who charged $800 an hour and made sure everyone knew it. He buttoned his jacket, once cleared his throat, and began. "Your Honor," he said, voice carrying easily without a microphone, "this is a heartbreaking case, not because of malice, but because of trust betrayed within a family." He turned toward the gallery as he spoke, making sure the reporters caught every word. My client, Jeremy Dunn, extended extraordinary generosity to his older sister. Out of concern, out of love, he provided a personal loan of $1.8 million to rescue her struggling company, MedLink Innovations. The funds were meant to cover critical operational costs to keep payroll running to prevent immediate collapse. He paused, letting the number sink in. 1.8 million. In Texas terms, that was real money, the kind that bought ranches or downtown condos. Bank records, emails, and signed agreements will show the transfer was made in good faith. Yet within months, the money vanished. Expenses piled up, questionable vendor payments, marketing campaigns with no return salaries that far exceeded industry norms. MedLink Innovations has no meaningful revenue, no viable path forward. It is sadly a failing venture. Roger Ellis gestured toward me without looking directly. The debtor now claims inability to repay. She has refused communication, refused accountability. We are not here to punish. We are here to recover what remains for the creditor, my client, who acted only to help his own sister. He walked slowly back to the table, placing a hand on Jeremy's shoulder for a beat. Jeremy nodded solemnly, playing the part of the wounded benefactor perfectly. My father stared straight ahead, jaw tight. The reporters wrote faster. Erin remained motionless beside me. She knew better than to react early. I kept my hands folded, breathing steady. Inside, adrenaline surged, but I refused to let it show. They wanted me rattled. They wouldn't get it. Roger Ellis continued, voice rising with practiced indignation. "Your Honor, we ask the court to pierce the corporate veil to recognize this debt for what it is, personal, and to grant immediate relief. Without intervention, whatever assets remain will disappear. We cannot allow that to happen to a creditor who acted solely out of familial loyalty." He sat down. The room felt heavier. Jeremy turned his head, then slow and deliberate, and looked straight at me. That satisfied grin returned small, sharp, private. A message meant only for me. "Got you." I held his gaze for a second longer than he expected. Then I looked away first, but not because I was beaten. Because the real fight hadn't started yet. 3 years earlier, everything still looked perfect on the surface. I stood in the formal living room of our family home in Highland Park, sunlight pouring through the tall windows, catching on the crystal decanter my father kept filled with his favorite scotch. I had asked them to gather here because it felt neutral. No office desk between us. No dinner table politics yet. I had spent weeks preparing. Slides on my laptop, market research printed, and bound financial projections, conservative enough to withstand scrutiny. MedLink Innovations wasn't some vague dream. It was a company focused on remote patient monitoring, wearable devices that tracked vital signs in real time, sent secure alerts to doctors, protected sensitive health data end to end. The aging population was exploding. Hospitals were desperate for solutions that cut readmissions and kept people out of ERs. The numbers were there in black and white. My father sat in his usual leather armchair, legs crossed, reading glasses perched low on his nose. My mother arranged herself on the sofa posture, perfect hands folded in her lap. Jeremy sprawled in the opposite chair, phone in hand, but glancing up occasionally, already wearing that half-amused expression he used when he thought someone was reaching too high. I started strong. I explained the technology, the encrypted sensors, the cloud platform built to HIPAA standards from day one, the partnerships I'd already lined up with 2 regional hospital systems for pilot programs. I walked them through the revenue model, subscription fees from providers, data licensing, down the line, scalable without massive overhead. I talked for 20 minutes straight. When I finished, I closed the laptop and waited. The silence stretched. My mother adjusted her necklace, eyes flicking to my father. She didn't speak. She never did when it mattered. Jeremy snorted first. So basically, medical Fitbits for old people. He leaned forward. Come on, Kim. This sounds like something a grad student pitches in a basement. You went to business school for this. I kept my voice even. It's not consumer gadgets. It's enterprise-grade regulated tech. The market's projected to hit billions in the next 5 years. My father finally set his glasses down. He didn't look at my materials. He looked at me. Kimberly, he said, tone calm but edged with finality. You've always been the smart one. Northwestern MBA, top of your class. But smart doesn't mean practical. He leaned back. Dunn Realty Partners manages over $2 billion in commercial assets. We build lasting value office towers, retail centers, things that generate cash flow for generations. What you're describing is speculative. Devices break. Software gets hacked. Regulations change overnight. I pushed back. Dad, the regulations are why this is defensible. I've already consulted compliance experts, Jeremy cut in. And who's going to buy from you? Big hospitals have contracts with giants like Philips and Medtronic. You think they'll trust some startup run by... He stopped himself, but the rest hung in the air, run by the daughter who never fit the mold. My mother finally spoke, voice soft. Sweetheart, we're just worried. This seems risky. Maybe start smaller. Or come work with your father. There's always a place for you in acquisitions. I felt the heat rise in my chest. I'm not asking for a job. I'm asking for seed funding. A bridge loan until the pilots convert. I'll pay it back with interest. Treat it like any other investment. My father sighed, the long, patient sigh he used when he thought someone was being unreasonable. You don't have the stomach for this kind of risk, he said. You get too emotionally involved. If it fails, and statistically it will, you'll be devastated. And then, you'll come back asking for help anyway. Jeremy grinned openly now. Yeah, and when the money's gone, who do you think cleans up the mess? I looked at each of them. My mother avoided my eyes. Jeremy waited for me to back down. My father delivered the final blow. This is just a hobby, Kimberly. It's not a real career for a Dunn. The words landed like a slap. I gathered my papers slowly, hands steady, even as everything inside me tightened into a hard knot. I didn't argue anymore. I didn't raise my voice. I simply walked out of that room, out of that house, and didn't look back. That same week, I packed what fit in my car and drove south to Austin. I rented a tiny one-bedroom apartment near downtown, the kind with thin walls and a window unit that rattled all night. My savings covered 3 months if I was careful. No more Highland Park allowances, no safety net. I changed my last name legally to Dunn, just Dunn, to distance myself from the Harrington legacy my father guarded so fiercely. Phone calls from home went unanswered. Emails stayed unread. I needed space to breathe. The first year was brutal. I took contract work as a health tech consultant to pay bills, pitching MedLink on nights and weekends. Investors weren't lining up. Most meetings ended with polite no's or ghosting. I learned to stretch every dollar, generic groceries, no eating out, driving only when necessary. Then I partnered with a developer I met at a local meetup. His name was Alex. He talked a good game, shared vision, complementary skills. We built the first prototype together, a secure wearable that streamed encrypted vitals to a physician dashboard. I poured everything into it, my code, my designs, my contacts, from pilot discussions. 8 months in, I logged on one morning and found our shared repository empty. Alex had forked the code overnight, rebranded it, and pitched it to one of my own leads. He cut me out completely, blocked my number, vanished with a chunk of grant money I'd secured. I sat on the floor of that apartment staring at a blank screen account balance under $1,000. It felt like the ground disappeared. But something shifted inside me that day. Family had dismissed me. Now a partner had stolen from me. The betrayal hurt, but it clarified everything. Trust no one who hadn't earned it twice over. I rebuilt the prototype from scratch. Line by line, I filed for patents alone. I cold emailed hospital administrators until someone finally agreed to a small trial. The device worked better than expected, caught an irregular heartbeat in a diabetic patient during the pilot, alerted the doctor in time. Word spread quietly in tight medical circles. Tracy Vaughn became my lifeline through all of it. She'd been my friend since college, the one person who never bought into the Harrington mystique. She lived in Austin too, working in medical sales. Late nights when doubt hit hardest, she'd show up with takeout and force me to talk it out. "You're not failing," she'd say. "You're iterating. That's what founders do." Her belief kept me going when nothing else did. She introduced me to engineers who needed side gigs, helped refine sales pitches, celebrated every small win like it was huge. Slowly, Medlink grew. I hired 3 part-timers. We moved into a shared co-working space. Revenue trickled in from expanded pilots. I reinvested every cent: better servers, stronger encryption, independent security audits. No debt, no outside strings. By the end of the second year, we had steady contracts with 4 regional networks. The devices saved real lives, reduced ER visits, caught issues early. Hospitals started referring others. My name, Kimberly Dunn, began appearing in industry panels, always low-key, always focused on the tech. I kept my personal life locked down. No social media ties to Highland Park. No family updates. Occasional holiday texts from my mother went ignored. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. Then came the federal RFP from the Department of Health and Human Services, a massive program for remote monitoring of chronic patients nationwide, hundreds of millions over 5 years. We were the long-shot small team, no big-name backers. But our system was lighter, more secure, already proven in real-world use. The vetting process dragged for months. Background checks, code audits, financial reviews. I held my breath every step. One afternoon, the email arrived: award notification. Medlink Innovations selected as primary contractor for the Midwest region with options to expand. I read it 3 times before it sank in. This wasn't just money. It was validation. It was security. It was the turning point that made everything before worth it. Success like that doesn't stay quiet long in Texas. A few months after the HHS award, word started leaking. Industry newsletters mentioned Medlink by name. A local tech blog ran a short profile. Someone from Highland Park must have seen it, someone who still moved in the same circles my family never left. Corey Hayes was one of my project managers. Reliable, detail-oriented, always on time with deliverables. He'd joined 6 months earlier, recommended by a mutual contact. I trusted him with access to our internal timelines, including the upcoming rollout schedule for the federal contract. I never suspected he was feeding information back to Dallas. It started with a casual text from an old acquaintance in Highland Park. "Heard you landed a big government deal." "Congrats," I brushed it off. Then another message, this one from a cousin who rarely reached out. "Your brother mentioned you're doing well. Proud of you." My stomach dropped. Jeremy didn't congratulate. He calculated. I tightened security anyway, limited access, new passwords, stricter NDAs. But the damage was already done. Dennis Dunn had a problem. Dunn Realty Partners had been losing money on a string of bad developments. Instead of admitting it to investors, he quietly moved funds around $1.8 million that didn't belong to him. He needed a way to make the shortfall disappear before the next audit. A failing family business was the perfect cover. Jeremy saw the opportunity and ran with it. They didn't ask me for money. They didn't need to. They forged a promissory note dated back to the month before I left Highland Park. My signature looked close enough lifted from an old card I'd sent Jeremy years ago. The notary seal belonged to my mother. She'd kept her commission active for trust documents even after retiring from the firm. Whether she knew or just handed over the stamp, I still don't know. Either way, the document carried weight. Jeremy filed the involuntary bankruptcy petition himself. Public record. No attempt to hide it. He listed the alleged loan, claimed MedLink was insolvent, demanded immediate seizure of assets to protect his investment. The filing hit the docket in Dallas federal court with a splash. Reporters picked it up within hours. Highland Park family sues daughter over $1 million loan startup in jeopardy. I found out late on a Tuesday. I was reviewing deployment logs in my Austin office when my phone buzzed with a notification from the court's electronic filing system. Process server email attached. I opened it, scanned the first page, and felt the air leave my lungs. Involuntary. Chapter 7. Creditor, Jeremy Dunn. Amount $1.8 million. Alleged purpose to save MedLink from collapse. The attached exhibit was the forged note. My looped signature stared back at me. The notary seal was crisp, my mother's name embossed at the bottom. I sat there for a long minute staring at the screen. Not shock. Not anger yet. Just cold recognition. They hadn't waited for me to fail. They'd decided to force it. I forwarded the filing to Erin Patel immediately. She called within 10 minutes. "They're not even trying to be subtle," she said. "This is timed for maximum damage. The federal contract has strict financial stability clauses. One whiff of bankruptcy and HHS can suspend or terminate." I gripped the phone tighter. They want to freeze everything. Force a settlement. Take control. "Exactly," Erin said. "If the contract pauses, cash flow stops. You'd have to negotiate to get it back online. And who'd be standing there with a generous offer, Jeremy?" I ended the call and walked to the window. Austin lights glittered below. 3 years of grinding, of rebuilding after every hit, and now this. They hadn't just found me. They'd weaponized my success to cover their own crimes. The next morning, the official notice arrived by certified mail. Summons to appear in Dallas federal court. Date set for 3 weeks out. I stared at the envelope for a long time before opening it. The seal of the United States Bankruptcy Court stared back. This was real. Erin Patel didn't waste time. She cleared her schedule the day after the filing and turned her downtown Dallas office into a command center. Stacks of bank records, server logs, and sworn affidavits covered every surface. Forensic accountants worked in shifts. We subpoenaed everything we could: Jeremy's accounts, Dunn Realty ledgers, even old notary records from my mother's commission. The forged note was the centerpiece. Erin brought in a handwriting expert who confirmed the signature was traced, not written. Pressure patterns didn't match any of my genuine samples. The notary seal was real, but the commission had expired years earlier. Using it on a fraudulent document was a separate offense. We also pulled Jeremy's financials. At the exact time he claimed to have loaned me $1.8 million, his personal accounts were barely positive. No large outgoing transfer, no trust disbursement, nothing. But the deeper dive into Dunn Realty uncovered the real motive. Hidden transfers, shell payments to non-existent vendors' funds routed through offshore entities. My father had been covering losses for over a year. The missing amount matched the alleged loan almost exactly. He needed a plausible place to park the shortfall, an investment in his daughter's failing company. Erin laid it out plainly one evening over takeout containers. "They're not after repayment. They want to trigger the federal clause. Pause your contract. Force cash flow issues. Then swoop in with a buyout offer that saves the family name. I nodded. And buries the embezzlement. Exactly. But we can turn that against them. She proposed the trap the next morning. We feed Corey false information. Something urgent, internal, believable. If Jeremy acts on it in court filings, we prove real-time espionage. I hesitated only a second. Corey had access to project management tools. He saw timelines daily. We crafted a confidential memo due to the bankruptcy threat we were delaying the Houston hospital rollout and quietly relocating prototype hardware to an off-site facility for protection. Fake address, fake date, fake inventory list. Marked eyes only for senior staff. I called a quick leadership meeting, acted rattled. Let my voice shake just enough. We can't risk seizure. Everything moves next Thursday. No emails. Verbal only. Corey took the bait immediately. I watched him step outside after the meeting phone to his ear, pacing the parking lot. Erin monitored court filings daily. Nothing for a week. Tension built. Then 2 days before the hearing, her assistant rushed in with fresh papers. Emergency motion from Roger Ellis. Request for temporary restraining order. Claimed credible evidence I was concealing assets, specifically relocating hardware tied to the Houston rollout to avoid creditor claims. The motion quoted the exact fake date. The exact fake facility address. Jeremy had swallowed it whole. We traced the leak back through metadata and phone records. Corey's number appeared repeatedly in Jeremy's call logs. Payments from a Dunn Realty account, small disguised as consulting fees. But the smoking gun came from deeper accounting. One transfer from the firm's main trust account carried an internal code that only my father used. It matched the missing funds exactly. Undeniable link. Erin leaned back, eyes sharp. We have forgery. We have espionage. We have motive tied directly to embezzlement. They walked straight into it. I stared at the motion in my hands. Jeremy's sworn affidavit attached, declaring the Houston move as fact, demanding immediate court intervention to protect his investment. He'd put the lie in writing. Under penalty of perjury, the trap worked better than we hoped. The morning of the hearing arrived under a heavy Texas sky. I walked into the federal courthouse in downtown Dallas one last time, briefcase in hand, Erin beside me. Reporters crowded the steps, cameras ready, but security kept them at bay. Inside the gallery was fuller than expected. More press, more curious onlookers from the business community. My family sat at the plaintiff's table composed for the audience. Jeremy looked confident, checking his phone under the table. My father stared straight ahead. My mother held that same tissue. Judge Keith Morgan entered and called the court to order. Roger Ellis stood immediately, launching into his final push, repeating the loan story, stressing urgency, painting me as evasive and irresponsible. Erin waited her turn. When the judge nodded to us, she rose. Your Honor, she began, voice steady. The plaintiff's case is built on emotion and a single document. We will show that document is fraudulent, that no debt exists, and that this petition was filed to conceal far greater misconduct. She projected the forged note first. Side-by-side comparisons of my real signatures, the handwriting expert's affidavit, the expired notary seal. Roger Ellis objected repeatedly. Overruled each time. Next came the financial trail. Jeremy's accounts empty of any large transfer. Dunn Realty discrepancies, missing funds routed to cover losses matching the alleged loan amount. The judge leaned forward, expression darkening as the embezzlement pattern emerged. Then Erin turned to the emergency motion, the one based on the fake Houston relocation. This filing, she said, contains details that could only come from unauthorized internal access. We intentionally circulated false information to senior staff. The plaintiff reproduced it verbatim under oath. Gasps rippled through the gallery. Corey Hayes sat in the back row, cap pulled low, face pale. When Erin named him, heads turned. He shrank in his seat. Judge Morgan's voice cut through. Counsel, you're alleging corporate espionage in addition to fraud? Yes, Your Honor. And it ties directly to the motive hiding embezzlement at Dunn Realty Partners. The judge removed his glasses slowly. He addressed Roger Ellis directly. Mr. Ellis, your client, filed this petition claiming a failing startup. Yet my reading this morning included a Federal Register notice listing MedLink Innovations as a primary contractor for Health and Human Services remote monitoring programs, a contract valued well over $100 million. The room went still. Roger Ellis stammered, Your Honor, we were unaware. Unaware. The judge's tone sharpened. You asked this court to seize control of a federal contractor based on a family dispute and fabricated evidence. He turned to me. Ms. Dunn, the court apologizes for the misuse of its process. This petition is dismissed with prejudice. No refiling. Ever. Jeremy stood halfway, mouth open. My father gripped the table edge. My mother's tissue finally fell. The judge continued. All exhibits are retained. The clerk will forward the full record forgery, perjury, espionage, embezzlement evidence to the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Securities and Exchange Commission for immediate investigation. FBI and SEC, real consequences. Potential prison time for fraud and wire fraud. Asset freezes. Dunn Realty's reputation in ruins. Jeremy finally spoke, voice cracking. This isn't fair. She walked away from the family. She doesn't deserve. Sit down, Mr. Dunn, the judge ordered. Bailiffs moved in. Corey was escorted out for questioning. Jeremy followed, protesting. My parents remained seated, stunned. I stood when the judge addressed me again. Ms. Dunn, you're free to go. And good luck with your contract. The country needs innovators like you. Aaron gathered our files. We walked out together. In the hallway, my father approached, voice low. Kimberly, wait. We can fix this. Talk to the investigators. We're still family. My mother nodded desperately beside him. I stopped. Looked at Jeremy being led away. Then at them. I met Jeremy's eyes across the space. I no longer have a brother, I said clearly. Then I turned my back and walked out of the courthouse for good. No calls answered. No emails read. No holidays shared. Ever again. The investigations moved fast. Jeremy faced federal charges. Dennis's firm collapsed under SEC scrutiny, fines, investor lawsuits, forced sale of the Highland Park home. My mother lost everything tied to the family trust. I never helped. Never reached out. The lesson wasn't sweet revenge, it was simpler. Real family supports you when you stand up. Toxic blood only pulls you down to save themselves. I chose to walk forward alone and built something stronger than any legacy they ever offered.